I'm Keith Olbermann, and this is The Resistance. In the span of one weekend, a man who essentially usurped the office of President of the United States with the assistance of this nation's most powerful and venomous enemy has himself attacked the structure of our Senate and our House of Representatives because their rules are archaic and they inconvenience him, has himself dismissed the two-party system because he believes it is obstructionist, has himself attacked the constitutionally protected freedom of the press because the media has repeatedly caught him lying, has himself let his chief of staff confirm he may try to eradicate those freedoms of speech and your freedoms of speech. In sum, this man has himself so endangered the freedoms and the liberties of this country that if anyone does not understand that they and you and I and every individual in this country and everything we love and everything for which every American soldier has ever fought, all of it is under attack right now by this crypto-fascist Trump. If they do not see that their freedoms hang by a thread, they are sheep headed to the slaughter or collaborators leading the rest of us there for the sake of Trump. The failing New York Times has disgraced the media world. John Karl of ABC said that as he read Trump's tweet from March 30th aloud. Gotten me wrong for 2 solid years. Changed the libel laws? To Trump's chief of staff, Reince Priebus, Mr. Karl continued, that would require, as I understand it, a constitutional amendment. Is he really going to pursue that? Is that something he wants to pursue? And Priebus answered, I think it's something that we've looked at. And how that gets executed or whether that goes anywhere is a different story. But when you have articles out there that have no basis or fact, and we're sitting here on 24/7 cable companies writing stories about constant contacts with Russia and all these other matters that have no basis at all, here Mr. Karl interrupted to refocus Priebus on whether or not Trump should be able to sue the New York Times. Priebus, quote, and I already answered the question. I said this is something that is being looked at. Wrong goddamned answer. The correct answer is that freedom of speech is the purpose of the United States of America. And every time this country's government has tried to alter that fact or has ignored it in the slightest, it has met with disaster. The correct answer is that constitutional change to limit free speech would not just be a step on a slippery slope, but it would be putting the entire nation in an 18-wheeler and driving at full speed down that slippery slope. The correct answer is never, never! Do not be sidetracked by Priebus's milquetoast disclaimer about whether that goes anywhere. Do not be reassured that at its worst, this so-called government would only attack the news media. Do not settle down because a constitutional amendment is the longest of long shots. This is about the threat, about the chilling effect, as much as it is about the execution. Priebus started by saying it's something that we've looked at, and then he upgraded his threat to the present tense by saying this is something that is being looked at for the sake of Trump. If, as Trump first suggested more than 14 months ago, quote, we're going to open up those libel laws, it would not be the New York Times or ABC News that would be the victims, it would be you. The New York Times and ABC News and the like could, even in those nightmare scenarios, be able to defend themselves legally at least for a time. Would you? If the libel laws were opened up, if writing or publishing a story the government found was merely inaccurate, now subjected the writer or publisher to a libel lawsuit with financial damages, or worse, exactly who would then be a writer or a publisher? Would writing a blog post be writing or publishing? Would sending a tweet be writing or publishing? Would speaking at a protest be writing or publishing? Armed with changed libel laws, Trump's target would be you. What he would stop would not be a newspaper article or a cable news story that his supporters would never read nor see nor believe even if they were forced to look at it. What he would stop would be dissent. What he would create, what his attacks on the media on Twitter and at that white nationalist circle jerk in Pennsylvania Saturday night, what that little rat Priebus is getting at, is invoking fear inside you. A hesitation before you protested or spoke out or wrote or tweeted or posted a comment online. That moment in which you ask yourself, is this going to get me sued? This technique has worked for Trump all of his life. Family members, ex-wives, business contacts, customers, the suckers of Trump University, lawsuit after lawsuit, the blight of financial ruin if you violated his non-disclosure clauses. This is how Trump has gotten away with nearly every crooked deal and every broken contract and every threat to the middle wife that nobody talks about anymore, because if she says anything, she and her Trump child could get cut off or sued. That's what Trump and his minions like Priebus want for this country. Before you criticize, even if every fact is on your side, they want an America in which a voice inside your head screams, remember, the government could sue you for libel and keep you in court with lawyers for years indefinitely, and even if you prevail, the government could ruin your life, erase your savings, destroy your family, and that's if you win. And as you envision that nightmare, something else not to be missed in the snarling little throwaway comment by Trump's toady, Mr. Priebus. What was the first example he gave of what kind of free speech needs to be erased? You know, for the sake of Trump. Which topic just happened to come up when phrases like change libel laws and constitutional amendment were invoked? The first story to which the Trump brand of fascism turns, the first story about which they want to criminalize dissent, is the Trump connection to the Russians. And that just happens to come up as Trump invites the murderous strongman of the Philippines, this pig Duterte, to the White House. Duterte, who said last year, quote, just because you're a journalist, you are not exempted from assassination if you're a son of a bitch, unquote. It's all coincidence, no doubt. You look at the rules of the Senate, even the rules of the House, Trump said on Fox on Saturday. It's really a bad thing for the country, in my opinion. They're archaic rules, and maybe at some point we're going to have to take those rules on, because for the good of the nation, things are going to have to be different. You can't, through a process like this, it's not fair. It forces you to make bad decisions. And now we change the rules of the House and the Senate because they don't move fast enough for the sake of Trump. Because the bureaucratic delay built into our system by the Founding Fathers to prevent despots or foreigners from changing our way of life overnight is keeping Trump from changing our way of life overnight. Oh, and that two-party system, the right of the opposition to exist, that too has to be changed for the sake of Trump. I also learned, and this is very sad because we have a country that we have to take care of, he said on CBS, the Democrats have been totally obstructionist. Chuck Schumer has turned out to be a bad leader. He's a bad leader for the country, and the Democrats are extremely obstructionist. All they do is obstruct, and you know what that's hurting? It's hurting the country. Change the House and Senate rules for the sake of Trump. Get rid of the rights of the Senate minority, even if they represent the rights of the majority of the voters in the last election, for the sake of Trump. Instill the fear that to speak or write or tweet or ask, what is this with Russia, will get you sued for libel for the sake of Trump. This man already, as of 102 days in office, the worst president in the history of the United States, already the symbol of betrayal and apparent treachery and the willingness to whore himself out to whichever foreign nation will give him a win in the media or a win at the ballot box. This pitiful excuse for a human being is a thug bent on destroying the freedoms of this country as we know them, and God damn it, we are not going to let him do it. Resist. Peace.